questions. It's always fun. So I can start. I'm a little distracted because I'm not in my normal like home situation. So trying to figure things out, and I have to eat a little bit during this call because I haven't had breakfast yet. And also my girlfriend. And my intentions for the call are to just like understand impact hour analysis, invite everyone to a param debate after the call, after this 2-hour session, if anyone has times. It's really fun to debate the parameters and debate the 4 choices that we have to initialize our economies. So that's our economy, so that's super cool. And really just to follow the plan for the rest of the groups. And I'll pass it to Jeff.
Cool. Yeah, intentions for this call. Really interested to understand and see what has been done on the data science side so far. And yeah, to kind of have, I guess, a focus session that gets these data scientists whizzes anything they need to continue doing the work, and maybe see what we're, looking for as outcomes to the process. So distractions, as I mentioned, I'm still in the car for another 5 minutes. And I will pass to Jessica because she's right here next.
Everybody, hope you're having we just yeah, intentions are just to not get into too much discussion and just really focus on work. And welcome, Angela. Thanks for coming. Jim.
Hello.
Hello. So yeah, I appreciate everyone coming, and I'll pass it to Angela.
I didn't hear who just passed it to, so maybe I'll just take it. My intentions are mainly to listen in, hear what's going on, and how people are thinking about things and how the data scientists approach things. And my distractions are just a million things around the home, so I'll mostly be listening in. And I'll pass to Angela.
Hello, everyone. I've just dropped off. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks, Jess, for inviting me. I haven't been in the sessions for a while. I just looked at the praise quantification at the moment, and I thought, okay, if I can help in any way, I'm happy to do so. Distractions, all things around TE Academy, with many activities at the moment that are also leading in absolutely the right direction for token engineering. And TE Commons, it's just another, let's say, another area of working. And I pass on to Septimus.
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, my intention is to see the process, understand how it works, and see how are the variations of what we did and how it come up, and just keep learning. No distractions, and I'll pass it to Juan.
Thanks, Septimus. Yeah, my intention is to learn and also to follow the process, and to facilitate also the dialogue and expression of everyone. So I am super excited about having this opportunity, and I will pass to Peter. No distractions.
Okay. Yeah, my intentions are to see how is this praise quantification is going, and maybe try to help with some insights and work on it. And I have no distractions right now. I will pass to Mitch.
Hello, everyone. My intentions from this call is to show up, get updated on the parameters working group, and pick up any tasks that need to be done. And I will pass it back to Griff because I joined late.
Sure, and I'll just say that the normal parameters working group work that happens is basically on pause this weekend so that we can do a deep dive into the impact hour analysis. And so with that caveat, I'll pass it to Nugget.
Yeah, my intentions are also just listening and learning as much as I can. I was hoping to catch up a bit on the parents because I was off a bit this week, and I kind of feel like fell out of the loop. but yeah, I'll just listen and learn as much as I can. And distractions, I don't have any big ones. Maybe I'll have to leave for like a couple of minutes intermittently, but that shouldn't be a big deal. And I'll pass it to YGG.
Hey everyone, nice to see so many people here. I think me and Sem have 1 hour that we're going to work on bonding curve modeling today, and the rest is for praise analysis, or maybe it'll all be praise analysis, but I really want to just help people get started for anyone who wants to look at that data and attempt some different things. I know Octopus has put in a lot of work in cleaning it, so I'm not sure if he's pushed his updates or if we'll see him today, but I hope so. And I want to help people get started on how they might want to look at that data and anything they might want to analyze. I think we should go through the notes that we have from last week and help people get inspired on maybe breaking off pieces that they can focus on. And then personally, I want to use a library called D3, which has a force-directed graph. And I want to see if we can get some network structure from the data by putting it into that format. Yeah, and I'll pass it over to Angela if she hasn't gone yet.
I already did. Thanks, Sean.
Awesome. I'll pass over to Johan.
Thanks, Sean. Hey guys, this is my first time in one of these meetings. So I'll just be listening in like the others and pick up what I can. I was brought here by Sean. I'm one of the junior token engineers in his team. It's nice to meet you guys. Okay, I'll pass it on to whoever hasn't gone yet.
Yeah, well, Octopus joined in. Hey, Octopus, very curious if you have any intentions or distractions to call out for joining the call.
My intention is to find ways to help the community see the data that they're interested in. My distraction is, at the moment, I am driving with my kids in the back seat.
That is a great distraction. Did everyone get a chance to do intentions distractions? Oh, hey, Dan. I think you might be last. Intentions distractions?
Oh, I'm just folding some laundry, man. and yeah, I basically just want to listen in mostly.
Cool.
Thanks, Griff. Back to you.
Cool. Well, actually, I feel like I'm not really leading this call. I just am buying time so that Jeff and Jess can land there. But maybe.
Hey, that's all good. I was gonna say, Sean, you lead away. You and Octopus. Well, Octopus is driving, but he can maybe tell what he did so far and you where to. If you just look in the HackMD, I should have synthesized all of it there, though not that. So you lead and start with the Octopus without too much distraction. Driving. I'm driving too.
Okay, thanks, Jess. So yeah, just a little background as well. These are the Sunday hack sessions, so they're usually pretty casual. Some people drop in and out. We kind of hold it open for 4 hours, which is a pretty long stretch. So sometimes people can only make it for an hour, or they'll come at different times. It's pretty casual. We try to have it like a laboratory or a kind of a research environment, make the scientists comfortable. So yeah, I'll just get started at looking at this praise data. So probably jump into the parameters group here. I see some HackMD files. Let's see. What's this one?
Yeah, that's the param runoff post.
Okay, so just that HackMD file, do you know, maybe you sent it to me directly, or?
It should be on the forum post. I've been logging. Angela, the one of it should be
Okay, just checking out the forum post, impact hours distribution analysis right at the top here. Awesome by Jeff, yes. Okay. So, yeah. I haven't read this yet, I should read this. I'll drop this in the params chat.
Sean, you don't have to use this at all, but I tried to create a cleaned up thing where all the usernames were standardized and the rooms and the dates were standardized. And it's in my fork of your GitHub repository. I don't know if that would be useful to you, but I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that, Octopus. I think that'll be very useful. Okay, so we have the commons build, praise analysis, and I'll check out forks. And we have Dr. Penland here, or Dr. Octopus. And so I'll link the original commons build repository in the chat so everyone can find that. And from there you can check out the forks at the top right. There's been a couple forks, so that's interesting. So I think what I would like to do is definitely check out Octopus's work and see what we got to get started. Yeah. And anyone, if anyone just wants to start hacking, like, you just feel free to mute me, or yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything. Yeah.
Sean, can you provide just a couple of sentences? I don't know exactly how long you have been working on this analysis. What's the current most important question to explore? That would be really helpful.
Yeah, good. So we have some notes. I think there's just a couple things I want to open up. We took a lot of notes last time directly in a notebook. So as in terms of how far along are we, I think we just had one session 1 week ago. On Sunday, we all came together and opened up the data. And there's a few background resources that we went through. There is, I think, 2 forum posts, one by Griff and one by me, that explain the background. These are from like November. So they explain the background on how the impact hours have been collected and maintained, and how praise has been converted into impact hours, how the volunteers who quantify the impact hours, how they get compensated. And then there's the other topic, which is the fact that some people are staff with the Commons stack or with the Token Engineering Commons. So they have this sort of consistent compensation. And so the community has tried to balance that. So there's a percentage reduction in quantified impact hours based on someone's basically salary or income rate. So we went over all that last time, and we went through the data set, which I'll see if I can bring that up here in praise quantification. I think I'll link that. This is the data source. And so what I did offline is I downloaded this worksheet and then just opened up a Jupyter notebook that could load this worksheet up. And I was attempting to, because it's in so many sheets, it basically had to be concatenated into one data set. And so we got mostly through that last time, other than a few outliers that just weren't playing nice in Jupyter. And so I think that's where we left off last time, and we'll see how far Octopus has got in terms of consolidate. And yeah, when I tried to start doing some analysis, I noticed this is pretty dirty data. Like I tried to plot things on a time axis, and there was lots of weird inputs in the dates. So I think there's a good case for data cleaning. And yeah, so I think we'll have a good launch point from what Octopus has put together. But that's where we're at. This is basically the second session here. And we have notes, we have a Google Doc, and we have notes directly in the Jupyter Notebook. So I'll bring those up now.
Awesome. That's amazing. And as far as I understood, but please correct me if I'm wrong. So there's two areas of discussion at the moment. One is better understand the data to see if dishing praise resulting in impact hours, resulting in hatch, let's say the starting point for everyone is what we want to see. This is number one, understanding the existing praise and impact hours. And then second area that seemed to me somehow mixed into this is for the hatch phase, is this, I mean, of course, anything that happens in praise was based on contributions on building TE Commons. But there might be other important token engineering contributions that aren't covered there at all. And the question might be if this should be reflected in the hatch as well. Is this correct or wrong?
I think that's very correct. Yep, those are those are two topics that have come up, and another one is just general fairness and this ratio, this discount to people who are on salary. I think that's it was put in hindsight, it was kind of arbitrary. So I think it could use some analysis to see maybe we could quantify actually based on how much people were paid. Does that equate to the reduction in wrapped XDAI equivalent, TEC converted impact hours, TEC token? So if we could quantify that, that would be really interesting. So I think that's a number 3. And actually, Jeff Emmett proposed this concept of an intervention, just some sort of filter, basically, applied or transformation applied to the impact hours set. And so what he showed is that when he simply looked at the data, and I don't know if I think I have his spreadsheet here, but he found that the mean was very far from the mode of the data, and he showed that could be that difference between those two could be reduced by actually just applying a standard rate. So basically a base rate of impact hours to everyone, like kind of a base level underneath the impact hour distribution that would be applied to everyone.
This is where the term universal basic impact hour income comes from, right?
Awesome.
Basic, but yeah,
Universal basic impact
hour.
Impact hour.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was some interesting results that Jeff found, and I just like that idea of sort of, he called it an intervention that can be applied. And I'm thinking, okay, that's really interesting. What other interventions could we apply to make this maybe a more fair distribution? So I think those are 4 points. So one is general visibility of the data. Let's see what it looks like. Number 2 is the focus on building the TEC Commons, but what about all the effort that has been contributed to token engineering prior? And how do we see that, and how do we recognize that? Number 3 was possible imbalances from the discount on people who accept salaries or UBIs from the common stack or the TEC. And number 4 is this idea of applying filters or interventions or transformations direct impact hour distribution.
And I'd add number 5 that has come up a lot is understanding what kind of work gets a lot of, what the natural inherent flaws are from subjective processing of this data during the analysis. So for instance, are meetings being over rewarded? Is Twitter being over rewarded versus maybe one praise for a large body of work? What's being under rewarded, what's being over rewarded, and I think that's less about that's more about understanding the system and maybe not necessarily going to result in interventions, but for long term, like, how do we take what lessons learned from this data set and apply them to potential future applications of the praise system?
Absolutely. And I guess this is pretty much related to number one, understanding the data.
Yeah.
Cool.
And yeah, Sean, I posted the link to the HackMD and the Params channel. I'm on my laptop now. Are you looking for the top slices? Because we had the list here, double checking.
Perfect.
But yeah, I think that was one of the main things, is just checking to see if there were any like double praise for the same task by the same people. And the meeting praise would be pretty easy to cluster to see if that's repetitive with the regular. Oh, good. Okay, you found it. Thanks.
Thanks, Jess. I'm just trying to capture everything we just went over. I think I can get it.
There are also other things that I would like to mention. And there were some insights that we did in Gravity last week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and is that this is a very sensitive topic. So like any possibility that of change that we are studying should be also like voted through the community, and also that we have like a high feeling, a great feeling about the praise, and we feel that yeah, it can be enhanced and improved, but we like there are people that still like defend a lot the work that's been done, and yeah, it's like very like attentive to the changes that may be done. So one of the things that we said is like it would be good if we have certain boundaries around what changes are possible, so that there is like a lot of less of lack of information and miscommunication around this topic. And also another thing that was mentioned that day is that maybe it can be given impact hours to people who have less, but it would be like really bad if we think of taking like impact hours from people who already have like so it's better like adding that than resting, because that would help to respect the sense of possession that each people has made around their contributions. And yeah, it also to respect sensitivities around payment, because there were people who made certain set of expectations according to the payment. So those are some variables that are like not so much present in the data set, but like that they are in the community. Like this is a very sensitive topic, and yeah, it should be really great to take into account all the points of view that this discussion has addressed.
Thank you. Thanks, Juan.
Yeah, I sorry, I was just trying to find the mouse to unmute here. Definitely agreed, and I don't think there's anything in the analysis that is inherently saying we are going to change anything at all. And that's the beauty of the scientific process. We can analyze this and then choose to do what we want with the things that we uncover in the analysis process. So yeah, definitely no proposed action just through the sake of the analysis itself. But I imagine once we have more information, it will give us a better idea of, how to align the outputs of the system with the goals that we had for it in the first place. And I just have to go rescue my dog. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but I'll be right back.
Yeah, and I'll just add a little bit to that because every 2 weeks we do an impact hour assessment and quantification. We just did one yesterday. The results are out. I can forward those. Well, they're in the praise quant sheet. And actually, we had a really interesting discussion about whether or not we should divert from how we normally do things, given this new analysis that has happened. And we actually decided not to. And I say we, it's really, it was yesterday, it was Pam, Eduardo, and Juan who were quantifying. And they said that we can probably, in 2 weeks from now, we have another quantification. And we're really, it's better not to divert because we don't have the results of this analysis yet. So it was better, even though we thought that it was flawed, that certain things are flawed, just to continue with the status quo for this round. But consider that, once we have some data that we can change, we can make an impact on the next quantification to adjust for the finding. But it was hard. I'll be honest. It was pretty hard because, the big one is, for me at least, is this 85% deduction that's given to people. And it's like, okay, this person has 30 hours and now they get 5. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's just too much. But we're doing it anyway, I guess, because that's the status quo. So it was hard.
Yeah. And to add to that, since I was there yesterday too, it's true the question came up about whether we should modify those percentages for one or more people. And Eduardo voiced his sort of opposition to doing it inside this one praise. I sort of voiced my agreement with Eduardo that if we were to make that decision, it would make more sense to do outside of this praise with just 4 people and to have it be more of a community decision. And I guess I also question whether we could do sufficient in one praise quantification for the kind of multi-month disparity maybe that may or may not have been caused by this discount. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting for us to see and then sort of think about how we can, make an adjustment if we want to, or decide not to make an adjustment over between now and the hatch.
So yeah, this is super valuable. Any data scientist or any token engineer will learn from experience that hours spent with stakeholders at the beginning have the highest leverage, more than any number of hours spent in the lab hacking on data, because Jeff mentioned this. How do we align the system, the outputs of the system with our goals? And if we don't do this kind of dialogue and discussion, then we don't really know what our goals are in the first place. So there can never be too many stakeholder interviews. That's what I learned from the ecosystem value flows course. So I really appreciate everyone jumping in and sharing. So this is a good document. It's been shared in the params channel, so anyone can actually open this up and hack on it. There's a lot of really rough notes from last time. If someone wanted to, I think there's a case to jump in here and maybe summarize these, because they're just kind of rough bullet points. Maybe they could be left at the end as notes, you know, for historical reasons, but maybe summarized into a few paragraphs. And there might be redundancies or things that are repeated from last week and this week. So yeah, that's one place that people can jump in if they feel inclined. Let's see. Otherwise, I've got the data here. And I'm gonna start jumping in and taking a look. Okay. So, praise to and from, interesting. Cleaning praise data. Octopus, is there any particular place that I should start here?
I think the best one to start with is cleaning praise data, because that does a process walkthrough of what I tried to do in cleaning.
Nice.
And, if anything was incorrect or if there are suggestions, it'll be clear how we could modify it, I hope.
Excellent. Okay, so we have the data loading here from last week. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 data sets that don't load. They seem to have a slightly different format. I'm going to put that as an issue in the repository here. Five.
And also, just as a style thing, not everyone knows this about me. I teach a lot of classes, so I tend to leave lots of notes as if I were preparing this for my students. So it may be overly noted, I don't know, but I tried to explain absolutely everything I was trying to do as text before I did it.
Perfect. It's a good habit. Okay. Oh yeah, this loading takes this takes about 30 seconds, I think, to load all the sheets. So this is just iterating over, so I just manually listed out each of the worksheets, like you see here. So this is number 7, December 18th. We have this whole worksheet as an XLSX here, TEC praise quantification.xlsx, and then we use the pandas.readExcel, and we just pass the location of that. So that's in the data directory, data/TEC praise quantification, and then we just add a few of these. So we skip the first 2 rows because they're headers. Yeah, so these 2 are sort of informational headers and summary stats. And then the 3rd row is the actual header that we want to grab as our columns. And we take columns A to M, that's all of our data. Then I do a little bit of pre-processing here because there's one variation in each data set, and that is the name of the quantifiers. So this is different in each sheet. So I just yank those out. Actually, we call them validators. So I sub them for V1, V2, and V3. And then I add 3 more columns at the end of the data that are V1, V2, and V3, and they just list what those names are. So for each sheet that's loaded, it'll have the same 3 names in every row. And then what I do is I drop the NaN values. I add a column that represents the period. So number 10, January 29th, for example. And then I concatenate everything into a combined data set. So you can see here the period. So we could group by period, for example. to see the variations. And there's so much we can do with this data. You can cross-correlate like any of these columns. So we could see, out of all the, we could grab all the unique validators and do a count of who did how many validations or during what months. We can see the average number of praise, how it differs over different periods. Just a few things as examples. So we have our data set all concatenated minus the 5 worksheets that we weren't able to grab. And that's in total 8,071 instances of praise. Okay, so now we have receivers. Oh, I think this is leftover. I was just doing, what do we have here? Combined data. I haven't combined it, so I think this is leftover from last week. I was just giving an example, and I should have documented this, like Octopus was saying. I think I could get better at that. But this is filtering out receivers. I'm going to skip that for now and come back to it. Cleaning, standardizing some of the data set by Octopus and Courier.
So
In our,
I did everything jumping off of that receiver's data frame. So it wouldn't be too hard to go back and do the same process for any other data frame. But I was just carrying forward from the receiver's data analysis. But the process should still be the same, I think.
What the heck is this receiver's data frame? I think I made this last week and I don't remember why or what it is.
Well, I assumed since it was the last one that it was the one we wanted to play with. So, it would be really easy to just change the variable names, right, and rerun it. It's not a.
Oh, I know what it is. Yes. Okay. This is why documentation is so important, because for anyone who writes code, I'll tell you now, you're going to spend about 98% of your career reading code, not writing code. And so you want to leave good notes behind, because that will save you the most time.
May I ask a brief question on classification?
Yes.
And cleaning. We are I guess in 2 of our key questions, we have this topic of, okay, are certain collaboration contributions overrated or underrated, or overvalued or undervalued? And I guess this would lead directly to the column reason for dishing. And this seems to be, it's pretty generic, right? So this has been the comment that has been made in the Telegram or in the channel, and the bot adds that to this data set. And I wonder, was there any step, probably there was, and I just don't know, that we have a certain classification or tagging so that we know this exact question. Is sending a Twitter overvalued versus spending hours with coding undervalued? Do you know what I mean? And therefore we would need to have a better, let's say, better classification of this reason for dishing.
So I have definitely not gotten far. Things we were trying to do were even lower level than that. So
yeah, but probably this would be, I just want to throw that into the discussion. This seems to be a step that is required to gain a better understanding.
Yeah, and I think kind of what you're saying is this could be actually added not on the analysis level, but in the system. So maybe with like a hashtag or something, right? You could say at the end you could tag, so Twitter or coding or research.
Exactly. Either, so I would rather see that as a result, but certainly take the data, classify it into whatever 5, 10, 15 subgroups of contribution. And then our assumptions are what are the big clusters of contributions, and what is also a contribution we want to separate from another, and then try to reverse and engineer and see, okay, we would, this is a manual step. We would need to go over the contributions or a subset to better understand if certain contributions have been over or undervalued.
I did that for one outlier, or someone who is signified as an outlier, and maybe that could be a good starting point. But it's hard to do cleanly
I can
with the
imagine.
data at scale. So
I can imagine.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, just an idea.
I think this is a great
I think
way.
it's going to be critical for. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
It's definitely a great way to kind of bucket out praise in the future, I think, because actually, you like kind of when you group things at that kind of like subpopulation level of praise sort of thing, then you can say, okay, we want to, value this type of work for 33% of the overall, and this type of work for 20% of the overall,
Exactly.
and this type of work for 10% of the overall, and then weight it accordingly without having sort of like praise inflation from, there might only be 20 types of praise for one type of work, but 300 types of praise for another type of work. So for the 20 to not get lost in the 300, if they were in separate buckets with those buckets allocated the percentage accorded to them, determined by the community, then I think that would be a better way to do that, at least moving forward for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
The hires, they already like weighted both, and there was like a lot of thought into that weight, and we know who are like developers, and even though that they received like one praise, we weighted that praise like more heavy than the ones that were for Twitter or engaging with the forum. So there's like a first taking second one.
I'm going to repeat. I heard you, Juan, but your audio was a little bit cutting in and out, but I think I heard what you were talking about. So I'm going to repeat it. Juan's talking about the actual praise quantification process, which actually is it's subjective, but in what tries to be a very fair way, in that there's different praise quantifiers every week. And what they do is these are people who are embedded in the community, and they take each instance of praise and do their best to actually assign a weight for it. So they know who's coding versus which one is a tweet. And they that corresponds into how the praise gets translated into impact hours. And it's somewhat quantified here by the normalization score, which I still don't understand. Griff explained this last time, but I'm hoping through this data science process, I'm gonna this will fully click for me. But
yeah, I guess we do. I hear you, Juan, and I know I've also seen this and done it. We weight it more, but it's really hard to tell what effect that's really having, because it's kind of like we're assigning. We try to weight it higher, but we don't really see how much that impacts, or we don't really see like what is the output of that. So maybe if we see some of the overall numbers split out, or I don't know, there was discussion of kind of chunking things out in types of work, but yeah, I don't know. Is it harder to do that now versus if we had done it as like hashtags and things? But I think it's pretty. I mean, we could still try to group some things. Or Sean, how much work does that actually take on this side?
I think it's a great project. It's a very kind of standard data science thing that's really cool. It's called unsupervised learning. It's actually an AI approach. So, and we've seen some of this in the research. Jan did some great work on this with spatial embeddings of network structures for the Gitcoin research. And this is very similar. It's even more standard than that, which is spatial embedding of language, or natural language processing, or it's clustering based on language. So there's very, very standard toolkits to do this. So I think it's a really great project that someone might want to pick off. Maybe Johan.
So this would mean we would design some, let's say, examples of translating reason for dishing to a cluster or to a box or to a category, and then the algorithm would use these embeddings to translate all the 8,000 or how many phrases to categories, right?
Yeah, this is so we could do a semi-supervised. So we could just pick out a random 25 of these and or 30 or 50 and label them. And then based on that information, an algorithm will find, maybe we make 10 categories that we put these 50 into, and then the algorithm already has the buckets, so it just has to go through all the data and put the text in the best buckets that it can find. And yeah, that would be really interesting.
Yeah, sure. Cool.
And there's even so that's like a spatial embedding, like a language spatial embedding, but there's probably easier ways. There's direct ways without AI. We could just, first of all, we could filter everyone that has the word Twitter or tweet or tweets or tweeting in it and see how many we get. Maybe that gets all the tweet ones, or maybe it doesn't. But we could try simple techniques like filtering by keywords. And we can do a word cloud, kind of. Like we could just see, okay, what are all the words that show up here? Like take out all the standard like stop words like for, his, like, take out all those filler words and just see what's the distribution of topics that are occurring in these reasons.
Yeah, I think that might be a good way to reverse do it. Instead of trying to come up with language first, to actually just do it that way.
And of course, sense making afterwards, because there's like people who tweet and then, or who are like just retweeting or whatever, and then there's people who are running the Twitter account. And obviously, and it's always going to be that game. So we just have to be careful looking for outliers and understanding maybe like some also words that to
Absolutely.
take out. Yeah.
And I mean 8,000 or 7,600. It's of course it's a huge number for do it manually, but actually it's not a really big data set. So.
We have 10 people on this call. We could each, we could split this praise up and all go through each one. The human machine learning algorithm.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was reading this book on algorithms and it's talking about like 13 billion or something is a challenging data set. So yeah.
Yeah. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what Octopus has here. So cleaning and standardizing. In our explorations of the dataset, we noticed some opportunities to standardize and clean various aspects. Oh yeah, I'll just explain what this receiver is, what I did here. So there is basically two types of praise. And I thought this was super cool. It's just like a Bitcoin block. Because in each sheet, you have all the praise that's given. And then at the very bottom, you have the validators. This is so cool. It's like a human blockchain, a human machine learning. Okay, so the validators get paid a certain amount of praise for doing the validation. And so we can analyze that as well, but I think we can analyze that separately and then compare it afterwards. So I actually just filtered all those out. So in the data set that we have here, we have basically only the transactions from the blocks. Not the validators. So, sorry if I confused everyone just there. I'll keep going. So, yeah, that's the receiver's data set. And let's see what we have here for cleaning. We check the columns. That's good. We can see all the columns here. Entries involving quantifiers. Oh, here we go. There are two types of rows. I think Octopus did the same thing that I had done before. Okay. Two types of rows that we see in the data frame.
No, here I'm removing praise that was adjusted by the quantifiers as part of their decision-making process.
Interesting.
So praise that did not originate from channels, but praise that was, like the quantifiers have things where they give praise and they're adjusting people down because they're paid or whatever. And so I wanted to split those two out as separate types.
Cool. Oh, I see. So there's a from qualifiers or quantifiers. Okay. And yeah, I'll be interested to read this because I'm curious what the general. Oh, this is all the the gets paid filtering. Okay, so people who get paid, and then there's a filter applied. So, and then there's these are the quantifiers, and then we have not quantifiers, and this is where the receivers, where the from is not. So for those of you who don't know, this tilde is a negation, like a Boolean negation. So we say not quantifier. And we have, let's see how many we have here. 7,631. So reality check. Negative impact hour per praise in the quantifiers data frame. We noticed that in the quantifiers data frame, the impact hour per praise is negative. We don't really understand this, so we want to draw attention to it. Right now, we just deal... Is there a comment or...
Yeah, I just want to say that the reason it's negative is because that's where we deduct the people who get paid hourly, who get paid for their hours. That's the deduction.
Makes sense.
And now actually, to keep the data set cleaner in this last round, we added another row for when we make adjustments at the end, because after we quantify every praise, like, okay, 3 people read every single praise and give it a score. At the end, we do some sense making to just be like, oh, why is this person getting so much when clearly this other person had more impact and put in more time than that person? Well, let's go and adjust the data to reflect that maybe whatever went wrong, let's just fix it, Without trying to understand what went wrong, we just go in and fix it. But before we were actually going in and changing random praises and pumping them up, so you might find some like outliers. Let's say like everyone else got 0.5 impact hours for retweeting, but then there was this one retweet for this one person that ended up getting 6 impact hours. Well, it's because someone went in and was doing sense making at the end and wanted to pump their score and just changed it for that one praise. And so in this last data set, to avoid that, to keep the data cleaner, we added a new row that's just adjustments. So now there's another quantifier row to avoid making the data dirty. Yeah, you can see it in 18.
And you mean row, not column?
Yeah, I mean row.
So it's at the bottom?
No, it's not at the bottom. It's within, because we sort it by people's names. So like someone who we could do, I think Ivy. If you go find Ivy's name, just scroll up to the middle and you'll start seeing these pink rows.
Yeah.
Just keep scrolling. So that's one. These are adjustments for people who get paid. And you can keep scrolling. Oh, there's one. No, keep scrolling. Oh, there we go. Adjustments at the end for ViViV. We thought ViViV didn't get enough praise, so you can see that for that adjustment at the end, we actually just manually added another praise by the quantifiers that gave ViViV an extra 7 hours, right? But even then, because ViViV gets paid, his total impact hours per person, which is column L, he only gets 4 despite that, right? And this is the effect of the 85%. So if you scroll a little bit more for ViViV's praise, scroll down a little bit, there'll be another pink one that says, oh, he gets paid, so he only gets 15% of his impact hours, which ended up subtracting 26 impact hours. So he would have gotten 30. He would have gotten 23 if no adjustments were made. But then at the end, we compare everyone, and we made an adjustment, and effectively each person thought that he needed to be pumped up a little, so they gave them a score. He got an extra 7 impact hours from that adjustment, but then after that, we took away 85% in this adjustment because ViViV receives payment.
Yeah, that's awesome I think that's a clear upgrade. I mean, there's 2 points here. I think this is good that you're now not adjusting the original data, you're augmenting it by adding a row, which can later be filtered out. So the original data can be analyzed and the augmented data can be analyzed. There's also the point of like changing, like you said at the very beginning, changing the methodology while we're halfway through the experiment. But I think I get why you guys did this, because this is a very clear change. Like, we could actually replicate. I mean, if we're doing analysis, we could take this extra 7 hours and we could add it to any random praise instance if we wanted to. If we wanted to transform this data exactly into the prior data. Yeah, there's a lot of messiness, but this is a huge experiment, right? And I think it's just really neat that this is all happening. But this is a clear upgrade, adding these extra rows instead of augmenting the data.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to call it out so that when you guys are analyzing the data, you realize this change. There's also a major change in data from round number 5 to number 6. And so now there's like effectively 3 data sets. There's this one round that has one style. Then there's the next, which is round 6 through round 17, which has another style that's relatively consistent. And then there's rounds, I guess there's 4. And then there's rounds 1 through 5, which doesn't have any of these deductions and had a tiered system. And then there's round 0, which was a historic round, it lasted like 2 months or something, because it was the first round and we just scored all the praise that accumulated to that point.
Yeah, that should be documented. If someone can, maybe I'll just write that in here, or
I can write it out.
Yeah,
I'm in a hack. Thanks.
Okay, so that makes sense. So we're taking out those quantifier rows. So we're just going to work with the no quantifier data frame for this session. Our goal is to produce a CSV file that can then be analyzed effectively and further cleaned if needed. Where does praise happen? We first want to understand the various locations where praise happens. We learn the following. Unnamed 3 represents a server. Praise is from Telegram. Other names are Discord servers. Room represents a specific room inside the Telegram channel or Discord server. There are rooms that may have the same name. We made these changes, 4 changes. First, we dropped emojis from room since they can cause confusion in the algorithms or the programs. Number 2, we renamed unnamed 3 column as server. Number 3, we replaced praise with Telegram. Number 4, a new column source that combined server and room with string concatenation so the praise's origin can be accurately sourced. Awesome. And then we go through those. So dropping emojis. We use the emoji library. Cool. I've never used this before. Oops.
I have a cell there you might need to uncomment to pip install.
Got it. Collecting emoji. Successfully installed. Just a warning here, it looks like. That's fine. So we use this, Octopus made this strip emoji function, regex to grab the emojis, and we apply that to the column. So we simply strip the emojis. And from the room, so now we have a new column. So you can see here the room column with the praise emoji, and now we have just praise. Number 2, renaming the unnamed column as server. Okay. So unnamed 3 has become server here. And then finally renaming praise as Telegram. Okay. So combining room and server. So we get a new column, source. Awesome. Look at this. Look how clean this is. Token Engineering Commons praise channel. That's nice. So now we're looking at data inconsistencies. It appears that the format of the dates in the data is inconsistent. Some entries opt for the format month. Oh yeah, I saw this, Octopus, and I was like, I'm not touching that one. I sure hope Octopus takes care of this. Okay. It appears that
I made my students do that one.
Oh, nice. It appears that the format of the dates in the data is inconsistent. Some entries opt for the format month, day, year, while others use year, month, day. So, okay, now why is this only 124?
Free ride students and interns for you.
Yes.
We should fix that.
No, we should get more interns in the TEC.
I'm always trying to hire interns. Jeff's always like, I ain't managing them, but I love it. That's so great.
The really nice thing about having students is they don't know what's difficult. So like you just tell them, okay, go do this, and then they have no preconceptions, they do it.
Mm-hmm. I'm just having a little sort of brain fart here, Octopus. Looks like this date column is length 124. I'm just a little, don't know why that, but I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, I don't know why that is either. We can definitely flag that to look at. If you would look at how the date time library gets used and see if that is a workable process, we could just apply that process and double check, make sure it's on the right thing.
Okay. Yeah, so I see you import this dateutil parser, which I haven't used before, so I'm really excited to see this workflow. So let's see. So we turn all the dates into strings rather than date objects or whatever they may be. Some dates are nan, which means empty value, and others just have the word dupe instead of a date. We may want to get rid of these in the future, but for now we will keep them since they may contain important information. Now we write a function that turns all the dates into a standard format. So normalize dates function takes a date, just like you see here, date strings, and we've explicitly made sure that they're all strings. So even the nans and the dupes, everything's a string. So we can pass those in here one at a time. This function takes in a string that contains a date and converts it to the format year, month, day. Date string, the string containing the date, and returns the date in the format year, month, date. Awesome, very well documented function.
All of that is my student Justin Clifton, aka Courier. He deserves all the credit for this part.
Awesome, good job, Courier. And why this is so awesome, I'll just show you guys now, because in Python, in interactive Python environments, let's say you have some function that you think you are supposed to use, but you don't know exactly how to use it. You can just type it with a question mark, and what you get is the doc string, and this is called a doc string. And so whoever's using this function in the future can now just print out exactly what the parameter is that it takes and what it returns and a little description. And you can also do awesome stuff. There's the Sphinx library, which if you have a whole library of code, like if we built this praise analysis into a standard like praise analysis library, then we could auto export all of our doc strings to get free documentation. So this goes a really long ways.
By the way, does HackMD have real-time editing like Google Drive, or no? Two people shouldn't edit at once.
Yeah, it's good for multi-editing as far as
Okay, cool.
my experience goes. Yeah. Although it can be glitchy. Maybe you're asking because you saw something. I noticed once, me and Johan, I think, were hacking on a HackMD, and I started Control Zing or Control Z, and it started undoing all of Johan's changes, which is really weird.
Yeah, and just as long as you don't edit the same line, it's usually pretty chill. The Control Z and editing the same line, those are the issues.
A quick sanity check to ensure that we have the correct results after this function has been applied. Awesome. So this is super easy. Just uses parser, parse date string, and returns. So we get a date parser, and we return it as a string. This function is string from time, and we give it our standard format. And we apply that function. Wait, did I do something wrong? Okay, I think I ran something out of order, but it's now working. Looks good so far. Yep, name, date, length. Type is object. Yeah, so we have all these strings. So these are still strings. But they're date. They're like standard date strings. So, and now we convert them to pandas datetime objects, which is awesome. And we create new columns that are just specifically for the year, month, and day. So if we take a look at our data set, we now have year, month, and day columns. So issues with names. There's a big issue in the data frame that we need to address. The issue is some users receive various variations on their names. We will work first on making sure each user is represented by their impact hour CStack name. To do this, we use the do not touch imported sheet that contains name information. Ooh, so that's in the that's in here somewhere? Do not touch. Is there a do not touch sheet?
Yeah, it's a tab. And it's all in caps. It's in the middle.
Oh, cool. Oh,
and
wow.
It just
So
has
this
a
is like
mapping
all
of
the variations on people's names that I was trying to account for.
This is awesome. So good that we have this. I had no idea.
it's a product of the Discord, the inclusion of Discord praise. It became pretty messy without that.
Cool.
So the thing is that sheet is imported from another sheet that is private because it has everyone's. We track their GitHub handle and their Twitter handles, and there's no need to put extra data in this public sheet that's of personal data. So we just limit it to Twitter and Telegram mappings. So that's why it's a do not touch sheet. There's another sheet that we use to actually add data, add names, and names get added every round during the quantification round. While the three quantifiers are quantifying, basically I'm updating that sheet. So
Awesome. Yeah, very resourceful, Courier. Good job finding that. And so we read that sheet with the pandas read Excel.
So this is my part. This is
Okay.
all blame goes to me.
Awesome. And yep, so we read that in. This is so cool. We create a dictionary that matches each non-null entry, not these nans, remember, are empty values, in the spreadsheet to its impact hour and CStack handle. Sweet. So just a couple of for loops here. So for each row in the data frame and for each column in that row, we take the name and then we get the canonical name, the ground truth CStack handle. And if the CStack handle is empty, then we'd grab the name to consider, and we iterate these, right? So does that mean the Telegram? Let's say someone had Discord, had this whole row populated. They have their Discord handle and their Telegram handle. It's gonna grab their Telegram handle by default.
No, it's gonna grab their CStack thing by default.
Oh, because it iterates all the columns.
Yeah. So the other
Yeah.
thing is some people have like a Telegram handle but don't have a CStack handle. So
Yeah.
in that case, I just pick their whatever they have as their standard identifier. But if they have a CStack identifier, I'm using that as their standard identifier for now.
Awesome. Awesome.
I would be careful with that. I would check to see just because usually what happens a lot of time is there is duplicate data, so there might be they might not have a CStack hand. I would only use CStack handles, basically. Long story short. And if you find some errors, please just tell me that, because it's very possible that yeah. I mean, earlier in the data set, you might need to do something like that for people who haven't been around in the last 3 months, 4 months. But you might also create a duplication.
Well, there are lots of people that don't have CStack handles, so we need to do something with them. So I'm happy to have any suggestions about what else we do with them. It's an easy logic fix. I have a relatively there are actually a fair number of people who don't have CStack handles.
That's very interesting. Okay. Well, I can try to clean that data set. I think that's probably the best way to start.
Well then, yeah, once it's clean and everybody has a CStack handle, I'll just kill that if isnan CStack handle catch. Because if we're sure that everybody has a CStack handle, then I'll just make it so they automatically get their CStack handle as their default identifier. But for instance, I don't have one and I'm in the data set, so.
You don't have you're not in there?
No, and I actually can't. I can't take any kind of, like, any compensation I receive for outside work, I have to run by my employer, and I don't want to deal with that level of hassle. So, like, I can't get any tokens or anything out of this work.
One thing that, for instance, with that kind of stuff is that I have you as having a CStack handle in the data set on row 766, but the only so for impact hours, you will only be able to get impact hours if you are a member of the trusted seed, and so if you're not a member of the trusted seed, you won't get. Not all impact hours will be distributed if people aren't legal members of the Swiss Association. So.
Excellent, thank you so much. Well, so that's just my comment. I'm happy to have everyone mapped to a CStack handle, but at the moment, not everyone has one.
I guess the other place to check is the total impact hours so far sheet, and that has all 400 and something people that have ever received an impact hour, and so that's a complete set of names. And I'll try to cross-reference them to make sure that they're all in that other set.
Good. Very good. Well, that's not a hard change. Once it will work.
Great. Thanks, Octopus.
Griff, so are you saying we can use this as a ground truth, this total impact hours so far? I mean, for a tag.
Yes, that in the end, that is an aggregation of everyone, every thing. I mean, we need before we hatch, before we launch the hatch, there needs to be a major audit to ensure that there aren't duplicate names. I try to do a small little audit every round, but we need to do a major audit to make sure people aren't listed here twice. And really that's not because of any kind of fear. The trusted seed does its own civil protection, but if they're listed twice, they may only receive one set of their impact hours, and that would be tragic. So
that is actually the next part of what I'm trying to do, because there are a bunch of duplicates issues with capitalization, and like YGG had like a lot of impact hours where the Y was capitalized. People where they capitalized their first and last names, but they only had all lowercase in their praise. Like there were lots of there were people who had 5 or 6 different names. Not all of them were caught by the do not disturb or do not touch sheet. So there's the level of cleaning to make sure everyone in the do not touch sheet gets a standard name. And then there's also catching the alternate names that people might have used that are not in the do not touch. So that's 2 levels of cleaning that I tried to do. Now, obviously, we want to get this in a format that everyone wants to work with. Like I'm happy to do whatever the process should be, but this is kind of a proof of concept of how I caught as much as I could. So whatever didn't get caught, we really need to see it. Like that's why I wanted to go ahead and show it now.
So in this cell here, this is exactly what Octopus was just describing, but I'll just talk a little bit about the code. So we combine all usernames into a set. And so we have a set of all usernames, and we say names uncaught is a list of this whole combined users set if the user is not in our names dictionary here, and not it's not nan, it's not empty in the data frame. So it's saying, okay, cool. So this is like a double check. So we have our whole names mapping here where Octopus has done his best to get the C-stack column. And if there's no C-stack column, then he gets the next best thing, whether it's Telegram or Discord. And then he's doing like this check to see, okay, jump back to our original data set and just get all possible names, like everything in the from column and everything in the to column, and then check for names that are from our original data set that are not in our new dictionary that we just created. And the name isn't an empty name. So basically he says, is this name just like some empty name, like not a value? If it is, skip it. But if it's a value and it's not in our big giant name data set that we just created, then we call it, it's an uncaught name. And then we list all the uncaught names. Okay. So there are 105 names in our data set that lack canonical representations. We do not have canonical representations for the following. And so now we can definitely go back and cross-reference with this total impact hours so far sheet. I think it'll be a good way to validate what we've done here.
So I tried to do automated cleaning to catch obvious duplicates, which knocks it down to about half of the uncaught names, just to reduce the human effort on that.
Yeah, so we have 106 missing names, which is a lot. Some of the missings are fairly obvious fixes. There's an inconsistent case with capitalization. So Septimus Q versus Septimus capital Q, YGG versus capital YGG. Usernames with punctuation that get dropped when praising. Interesting. And dropping the Discord 4-digit identifier. AMW fund versus AMW fund number 0979. The ones that are typos of these types can probably be fixed by casting the names to bare bones representations and checking to see if there is a reasonable key though this has potential pitfalls if two unrelated usernames are similar enough. Still, it's worth a shot. We're going to write a function to clean a name. So clean name takes a name and generates a new name, which verifies that it casts that name to a string. First of all, it's probably a string already, but let's make sure it's a string. I guess it could be a NaN value. New name, so we just strip it all the uppercase. So we put the whole thing to lowercase, and we substitute out. What are these /Ds in regex? Oh, I know. This is digits. This is the Discord. So we strip out the Discord number if it's there, and we replace it with nothing. So we just strip out the Discord number, and then we substitute alphanumerics. What's this last one do? Oh, remove all non-alphanumeric.
Yeah.
So we strip out the punctuation.
Strips out emojis and punctuation.
Cool. And we return the name. So this is our clean function. Below are some sanity checks. Function works as intended. So yeah, lowercase things get turned to lowercase. Underscores get removed. Discord numbers get removed, and non-alphanumerics get removed, like a time zone. Now we use this function to check if a clean version of an unknown name has any good representation, and if so, we borrow it. So cleaned keys. So we clean. So we have our name data set, which was this dictionary, and we're gonna clean the keys and clean the names, I think. There's a lot of code in this one. Do you want to talk through this a little bit, Octopus? I think it's just, is it just cleaning all the names in the dictionary? Okay, let's see what we get. We were able to add the following names. Okay, so we're checking the uncaught name. And we're checking if they have if we clean them, do they have a cleaned match in our name data set? I'm guessing that's what we're doing. So we get a whole bunch here. This is pretty interesting. Yep, they seem to be working. This is really cool. Yeah. So how many are so we clean all these names and we find matches. Cool. And how many are still missing? Well, there's still 47 missing. So there's still names in our original data set that we loaded that aren't in our names dictionary. And those are 47. So 47 users that we don't have a true name for. How often do they appear? So we create this total appearances function, and we count them. So Oops Fix Me has 11. Barada has 12. So yeah, this is really valuable. We're unsure if Oops Fix Me is actually a user or an artifact of notes from the recording sessions. In any event, we will just give each of these users their own record in the dictionary. Reality check. Every name in the dataset has a key now. There's one remaining user with no representation, NaN. We have a NaN that somehow became a user. We're not sure how this happened, but we can live with it. All users have been processed. Now we're ready to use the dictionary to substitute these names into the data frame. We have the results, so let's just peek at what those are. Bam. Cool. So clean. Yeah, looks awesome. So I guess all of the to and from have been right? Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, so we map all rows in the to and from column to the names dictionary, and a dictionary is naturally a mapping, which means you give.
So sorry for this. I don't know if y'all can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry, I picked a bad time to drive through a very internet dead area. Sorry. Very sorry.
We're just getting to the end, Octopus. I'm not sure if you could hear.
No,
We got the whole names mapping dictionary, and we're just applying it to the data frame.
Okay, sorry to leave you to fight through the logic of that. That was the one part where I really could have helped from it. Sorry about that.
No, this has gone really smooth. I think this is amazing. I like this. After all the cleaning, and the cleaning worked well. It looks like I just scanned through it, and I don't see any. Just from a quick scan, I don't see any like mistakes here that I could pick out. It looks good, and then we still have 47 names, and so we just say, well, let's give these 47 users. Let's call them users. And then there's only one remaining, which is the nan. And so it seems as though we've successfully resolved all of the usernames, which is incredible. And then we map it back to our dictionary, and we have a nice clean dictionary set with a date time. Did we apply the date? I'm just looking at the date now, and I see. Or do we have a clean date column? I'm not sure if we put our clean date column on here.
I'm not sure if it got feature engineered to just be year, month, date, and then the date column got dropped, maybe. But that's definitely something to check to make sure of however we want it that it is that way.
Yeah, I'll just check back because I see two different formats in the date column there. So date consistency. Oh, something's going on here with date. When we grab the date column, we get 104 rows. Yeah. That's really weird.
There are definitely still issues. I'm not presenting.
It's simple. I think it's simple. Courier is referencing. Yeah, he was just referencing a different data frame. So let's see if we convert all these to our non-quantifier. Oops. Unknown string dupe. Unknown string format. Okay.
There's something you can do with there's a way to fix that by having it ignore NAs or something. But
so we're taking the date string and it's dupe, and we're trying to parse it, and we're returning it.
In his notebook, he dropped dupe and NA before he used this function. And I copied and pasted stuff, and I did not drop dupe and NA. So I think that's the issue is the function doesn't have a catch for dupe or NA, I don't think. And if we put one in, that does.
Awesome. I'd have to look this up. Pandas drop a particular value? Unless you know it, Octopus?
I don't know it right away, but it's in his I can find it because it's in his notebook that I copied and pasted from.
Should be a quick Google.
Yeah.
Oh, there's drop. Oh yeah, it's called drop.
But I don't know what dupe. I don't know why there are dates that are dupes in A's, so that would be helpful in analysis.
That's just us, the quantifier, saying, oh, you know what, this was already dished praise for, and two people might dish praise for the same thing. And so at some praise sessions, we remove those. Other praise sessions, we decide in an informal way, sort of, to just be like, well, if they get praised twice, that's like extra praise, you know? They deserve extra points for that. And then we'll just give it a lower score, and some praise quantifications we would just remove them completely, and we'd say, "Oh, this is a duplicate," and we already gave praise for that action, so we're just gonna put dupe in here to like signify that we're not gonna quantify it. So all of the dupes should be getting 0 impact hours.
So my thought is to create a column that just says Boolean on whether or not it is a dupe. Create a column is dupe that's either 0 or 1. And then replace the dupe back with the original date.
There's only 5 dupes in the whole data set.
Oh, then dropping them probably doesn't hurt me.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And they're all to... Only Ivy got 2 dupes. The rest are unique.
I bet Justin did that analysis and decided to drop it because it was small. I should have trusted him more. But yeah, I just wanted to put together kind of a sketch of like a direction towards cleaning the qualitative data, the non-numerical data, and getting feedback like from Griff that we should enforce C-stack handles being the default ID. And if somebody doesn't have a C-stack handle, then we need to, like, that's a data cleaning issue, not a coding issue. Like, that's really helpful. So whatever feedback people have about how we should take this in the future, I really wanted Sean to look at it because he's a better data scientist than I am by a lot. So
I don't think so.
No, it's completely true.
This is awesome work.
So I'm totally open to any feedback and want to keep iterating on it, but iterating on it not just by myself, with some community feedback would be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's great that we have this opportunity for to tune in through this process and see the cleaning step, and especially with people like Griff on the line, who has so much experience through the quant process and can has that domain expertise, that can shed light on a lot of this stuff. So I feel like this is a really valuable session, and it looks to me that the data set at the end is great. Like, it's primed for people to start jumping in and doing analysis, which is a good jumping off point. We have people here. I think we're going to have a session this week, maybe on Tuesday. And so when we start the next session, we can basically say, hey, everyone, here's the cleaned data set. And here's all the analysis that the community is looking for. So who wants to break off a piece? So I'm just going to remove these dupe columns, or these rows. There are only 5 dupe rows in the whole data set. So let's just drop them. QDF. Okay, we also have none. Let's see how many of those we have.
Well, and I want to say Griff was gracious enough to take 45 minutes and explain a bunch of the background to me on Friday, which I would not have made nearly as much progress without that. Thank you so much again, Griff, for working with me.
Are you kidding? You guys are the heroes. All I can do is tell stories. So like, thank you for putting the work in. It's my pleasure.
Okay. Yeah. So there were just two strings. They called dupe and none. So I removed those. Looks like everything's working nicely with this date formatting. So we now have 7,625. And yes, we apply normalized dates. Looks good. And okay, so let's add this now to the noQF data frame. And I suspect that this will be all good to go. Okay. Okay, so at the very end, we drop the cleaned data on disk as a CSV. So I'm actually just going to restart this and run everything to see if we haven't broken anything. So this will take, it's got to load the data at the beginning, so that takes 45 seconds or so. And then it should go through the whole cleaning process and drop the results on disk. Drum roll. Yeah, looks good. So now we have clean data. Yay. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to push this. I'm going to commit this. Git status. So a few modifications to the notebook and the dataset. So I'm going to add those. Git commit -m. Small updates to Octopus and career work. Adding the date cleaning the no QDF data frame. So this is kind of annoying with Jupyter. It auto saves the notebook, but it auto saved the notebook after I already committed, I think. So I can, and this isn't a big deal because it'll have all the updates, but I really like to get my Git status to be blue. So I'm gonna add that again. And I should be able to do this git commit -am, which is up, or -a, maybe? So this appends to the previous commit. What? Oh, wait. -a. Oh, it wants, okay. Just a notebook. Save. Okay, does that work? There we go. Nice and, yeah, okay. So we're all up to date. So I can so this is working off of Octopus's fork. And I should be able to just push up to the original fork. So I should be able to go git push origin main. Cool. And that should be all good to go.
Sean, do you think it would be a good idea to go ahead and put issues in the GitHub repository for the things we identified?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So I have two. I popped in two while we were going. My note on the clustering, on the reason for dishing, and then the worksheets that didn't get loaded. Should we take a moment to think and reflect on anything else that came up that we want to capture as issues?
I think we need to remark, like, instead of catching when someone doesn't have a CStack ID and then, just give them whatever ID is available, we should just print the users who don't have a CStack ID, and then the people who make those assignments in the spreadsheet can double check that, or someone else can do it or whatever.
I am so close to finishing that in completion. And thank you so much for this impetus. I already found one person who had a duplicate name. So thank you. And it'll be done today. Everyone's name will be in there who received impact hours so far. So you're gonna sign? Yeah. Thank you.
We'll rerun the Nook, one time, then clean it after.
I'm almost done cleaning. I don't need the notebook to do it. I don't know how to use your. I don't know how to use your magic, man.
The thing, the CSV file that just got put up is based on the data that existed when the notebook was run. So if the spreadsheet, if the do not touch tab, then we need to run notebook again to produce an updated file. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. It's been updated with probably about 40 names already.
Okay, good work, everyone. So I think we're at a bit of a jumping off point. Or maybe we should, well, yeah, we can get started on analysis, and if this sheet gets updated, then anything that anyone's built should work just fine. It'll just be the names that might be slightly different. So maybe I'll just take a moment to pause here and open up the floor. Jess or Jeff, if you want to jump in, or anyone else.
Yeah, that was really cool. If I can just jump in real fast, I just wanted to maybe throw it to you. Based on this, how would you, what would be the lesson learned for designing it going forward?
So I think the key, I think the approach here is we have the voice of the community captured here in this document, in this HackMD file, and it would be the best outcome, best case scenario is if we could, here's the questions, right? So if we could address all of these questions. So if we basically got a volunteer, if say we had 7 people that wanted to jump in and analysis, and each one took one of these questions and saw if they could address it through the data, I think that would be the ideal outcome. I don't know if we have 7 people, that we can rally comfortable diving into the data and trying to answer some of these questions. We very well might. We might have 3 or 5. But I think that's kind of an ideal outcome. If we distribute this is the voice of the community here, and if we can address a lot of the majority of the points here through data analysis, I think that's an ideal outcome. I personally just have this, I get kind of obsessed with things and I have this vision of something I want to create. And like my ideal outcome is that 7 data scientists volunteer and each pick one of these questions. And then I just want to go make a force-directed graph. That's all force-directed graph. I'll show you what I mean by that. Maybe this one, I think. So this is a force-directed graph. So like we can get a network of our community and each node is a person. This is actually the movie Les Miserables. And each edge is an interaction between characters that happens in the movie. And I forget what the colors represent, but we can do this for the TEC. Each color could be a working group. Or I don't know how we would do this exactly, but I'm so excited to see the network topology of the TEC and to get to play with it.
Yeah, Angela, did you have any other thoughts? Or I don't know, I also was wondering if Johan wanted to say anything or had any ideas. And then I think, I don't know, Danilo's pretty busy, but there's potential. We could see if he has some time on Tuesday, Sharon.
Johan, are you having any crazy hacker ideas? I've seen Johan build some pretty neat things pretty quickly, so I am curious.
Now, I have a proposal for Johan, just in case you need one. Understanding what has been praised, so the reason to dish praise, to better understand what has been valued so far and maybe what's over and underrepresented would, I think, help us a lot to see if this makes sense for the community and for the hatch. It touches on a lot of questions that have been raised, I think. And I think the next step, so one of the next steps, and now if I can support, I'd be happy to support, is to create a list of categories so that we can, instead of 7,600 reasons to dish praise, we have then the 10 to 20 categories. Maybe Johan, you can support and translate the category or make this again, translate this data set to, okay, we have 12 categories, and then we could take next steps from there to see how, not what was the reason, but then also to see how does this then is translated to impact hours. So, for example, tweets get a lot of impact hours, and another category is just getting way less, and there, step by step, have a better understanding of what happens over the last couple of months and if there should be an intervention or not.
Yeah, Angela, maybe we do a session on Tuesday, and I'm happy also to like dig in, and I think another few people like myself who, we're not data science, but certainly we can help come up with categories. Perhaps that's a big project. I feel like that's one group, so we could do that on Tuesday. Sean does a network graph. Maybe we can see what Octopus could be interested in, and then anyone else, we could look at these other questions and see if people are up for taking one. I'm happy to work with you on categories.
Yeah, same. Also, in just like the points that Angela raised, I think are very valid in constructing a well-designed value flow.
I don't know, Johan, if you would be able to come up with a library that could help us to make this most efficient. Like Node2Vec or anything that's probably simpler but similarly efficient.
Johan, are you there?
Hello.
Maybe he's AFK. I'm actually in the same. I can go check on him physically. But I would happily work with Johan on that. So I'll check in with him. And yeah, so is there a session on Tuesday? That's
Well, we were discussing same time on Tuesday. I don't know, Angela, if that still works for you and Johan, and I don't know who else we can rally.
Tuesday's fine on my end.
Yeah, I would. I think the categories are huge, and I think another, and that for especially for the non, like Python rock stars, but then also, I think it'll be really easy to pull out any negative numbers from here and just see the impact of adjustment hours and what you were saying before, YGG, about like how much governance people will be able to buy with their payment versus impact hours that was taken, and doing an analysis of how that is. That would be really interesting. And if anyone, I would be very excited to support that effort.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Sean, was there a question in particular for me earlier? Sorry, I was a bit away from the computer and I missed it, but I'm at my own laptop now.
Sorry, what'd you say, Jeff?
I just didn't know if there was a question for me earlier. I thought I heard you calling my name, but I was a bit away from the computer to respond.
I did call your name at some point.
Present, but late.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we figured it out.
Cool. This has been a super interesting session. I've heard that, data munging is such a big part of data science, but it's cool to watch it go through the steps, and yeah, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm really happy. Like it's amazing how things work out. I mean, if we didn't have Octopus, where would we be right now? We'd be just rolling around in messy data. So I just think it's awesome how people just in these decentralized communities, the timing always works out. People always step up at the right moment to make things happen. So yeah, I think we maybe we just take a few more minutes, like till the hour, to just continue the discussions and allow anyone to bring up anything that they want to point out. And then maybe we do a couple hours. If we can get people started, I'm gonna check in with Johan. I'm in the same house here. Johan, are you on here? And anyways, I'm gonna check in with him, and then if I think we've identified maybe some people want to hack on the hackmd file and just continue to flesh out some of the discussion that has come up so far. Maybe some people want to get started on the category segmentation, and maybe some people want to get started on the balancing negative scores from payments versus how many impact hour tokens that could purchase. I think these are two really interesting areas that are both they both have some low-hanging fruit. Like, I think it's not too hard to get started and see some results. But they also both have the ability to really like be fleshed out deeply and be a very, very deep data science project. So I think that's good. Easy to get started, but long ways to go in terms of insights. And I'm happy to help anyone who is working on either of those. And I'm happy to jump in and make contributions. And I also want to see if I can get this FDG going. I think I could get it in a couple hours.
I changed my Discord handle a few times, and I'm wondering if there's an easy way for me to check that list and verify that I'm not one of the nameless, so to speak.
I definitely got you, D-Dan. You are a very prolific name changer, but I'm pretty sure that we nailed you.
Thank you, Griff.
Yeah. But you can check just on in the praise data sheet, you can look through the total impact hours dished, and what's more likely is that you would have 2 names on there. But if anyone wants to independently verify, just make sure that you only see one of your handles on that list.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I know. Oh, go ahead.
Hello? Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say on the directed graph, it would be really interesting if that comes together to look at the number of times you have multiple people giving like clusters of praise and thinking around consensus. If it should just be fully with individualized, or if there should be like a consensus before the praise is sort of validated by the communities, meaning like more than one praise giver. I was just thinking about that. Might be some interesting tidbit when you make that graph.
But yeah, Angela, I know it's late for you. So do you want to try to do that session we were discussing on Tuesday to work on the categories?
Yeah, we can. I mean, particularly the praise quantifiers would be super important stakeholders there, because I guess they went through every single of those 7,000 at some point and have a pretty good overview on potential categories. And from there, we could run data, iterations on the data to add labels and then have first analysis.
So they schedule for 2 hours, probably 2 to 4, like we said, same time.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been through 1,500 of the praises myself the other week, or was it 2,000? I think it was 2,000 of the 8,000 happened the other week.
Yeah, and anyway, I don't have the full overview on who was Quantifier, so maybe we can reach out to those people.
Okay, I'll summon everyone.
Yeah.
Put out the bat signal.
Cool. Well, I want to hijack the call because there's another call happening right now in the same room, which is if that's okay, because I want to give people space to leave, but at the same time invite everyone to stay because it is kind of a pretty monumentous occasion that we find ourselves.